Right, back in the glory hole, playing quiz games with the Bygones, but particularly with this horseshoe, which people have said was a ox shoe, which it clearly wasn't. As a matter of fact, they're, I'm sure, just old pattern horseshoes. And the interesting thing is that they're found in very large numbers around the places where the cavalry battles were fought in the Civil War. And more particularly on the green road that goes right across the top of Wessex and over the Ridgeway and down to the Thames, which was the Grove Road on which they brought the cattle all the way from Wales to London. We find these in a much smaller size, and I believe those were the Welsh ponies that were ridden by the drovers who brought the cattle all that route. And talking of horses, what about that? Well, you've probably seen, when you've been watching show jumping, some of the horses wearing little rubber boots on their front legs. They're what we call overreach boots. That's because a tired horse, or a horse that's making an over-effort, will overreach with his hind leg, and he'll sometimes strike his forefoot with his hind foot. Wouldn't matter with a wild horse, he'd only give himself a nasty knock, but if he's a horse being ridden by a human, he'd be shod and he could wound himself. And this was an overreach boot that was put on a heavy horse while he was healing after a bad overreach in order to stop him doing that again. Some of these things that were made in the old days are so simple but so perfectly adapted to their job. These were made in the village cobbler when I was young. 4 pieces of sole leather from farm boots cut into circles with the old punch that punched the wads for the shotgun, bored with 2 holes each, and a bootlace put through them. It looks like nothing, doesn't it? It was the perfect solution to the problem. When we were little boys, and we used to have to go out with sticks beating for the shooting men, they used to give us an awful lot of game to carry, and you get terribly burdened down. But with this, let's use these to show you. You can put a bird's head through there. In fact, you can put pair of birds' heads through from opposite sides, and then you can pull up that one. Having pulled that one, you can put another 2 through there, and another 2 through there, another 2 through there, and by the time you've got 8 on, you've only got to have the right shaped stick, and a little boy, or any other shooter, carry 8 birds, which weigh a good deal, without any trouble at all. Marvelously adept little gadget that somebody invented one day, which served the purpose perfectly. This is interesting for what it's made of. This is a costrel, the little barrel on which the Wessex people used to take their cider out to the fields. It's called a costrel because cost is the old root for side. Costrel is the rib region, the coast of the a land is the side of the land. To accost somebody is to walk up alongside him. So this was a coster, in other words, a thing with a side, but because it was a little one, it was in the diminutive, so it was called costerel. So this means costerel, a little thing from the side in order to carry your cider out to the fields. And you did that because there was an old belief in the old days that you shouldn't drink cider out of anything mineral. In other words, you shouldn't drink it out of a metal pot, or you shouldn't drink it out of a glass thing and that sort of thing. So they carried it in wood and they drank it from horn. And there's a very early cider horn, you see, which is made from a piece of a cow's horn, and the bottom of it is made from a flat piece of horn, which was boiled until it could be pressed flat and then cut in a circle and worked in. So there's a cider costrel and a cider horn, and these 2 are very interesting because there was once a sporting parson who used to come out to the meet bringing with him a barrel of cider on his trap for the people at the meet to drink, and he made those 2 little stirrup cups. He had them made out of horn in order that they could appropriately drink his cider as a stirrup cup. An absolutely remarkable relic. When we were working on the restoration of the old tide mill on Southampton Water, where the tide had been driving a corn mill for absolute centuries, and successions of mills had been built there right back to the earliest days when the earliest inhabitants used to transfer. That was found there, and we think that without question it was the bearing from one of the original little water wheels that were put in there in the days when very primitive attempts to mill, you know, that was worn smooth by the axle of one of the first little water wheels that were put there. Here's something that's Roman in origin. They used to use these in the markets when I was young. It's called a steelyard or steelyard. It's for weighing things. If I were to put something heavy on there, for instance, I ought to be able to find, I found out in one go exactly what its weight was. And they used to take them thing and they used to, measure up sacks of potatoes, whatever it might be. So there's just a few more things. But I now come to the things that I don't know about. But it's my experience that there's always some old lad sitting there who does. So let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, this. This is obviously, I would think, something to do with an old horse wagon. It has been said to be a brake. The trouble is that I don't see whether it be very efficient because it doesn't have any flexibility. It just comes that tight and no more. And if it went on anywhere, it would have to go on the hub of the wheel, the nave of the wheel, as they called it on these old days. And the nave of the wheel would suffer very badly for wear. There's a much better way of braking a cart. You used to have a shoe that went up it like that, a drag shoe, and that stopped it running away downhill, or when you parked it on a slope. So I want to know, and I'd very much like to hear from somebody who worked with wagons in the old days. I did, but I never saw one of these. I'd like to know whether or not this really is a brake from a wagon, or if not, what on earth is it? And last of all, something else that I want to appeal about. This was given to me recently. It's formed by turning it over so that it's smooth on that side, which means it not only goes round something, but it goes round something which either could feel or would wear. And that closes it over like that, which makes it look like half a handcuff or a shackle. On the other hand, if that were a shackle, a prisoner's shackle of the old days, I'm sure it would have a ring through which some kind of padlock went. But it hasn't. It's got a pin. And that pin has got on each side of it a flat spring. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Put it through there. It holds it in place. Somebody told me it was a pig muzzle. Is that right? Personally, I think that a pig would pull straight out of that, but I would like to know from somebody who knows for certain. Cheerio.